up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks. My name is Charlie Sardelli, and as always, I'm here with
Jameson Amaros, ladies and gentlemen.
Oscar Ibarra.
And guys, we are just three Colorado-based realtors with Fathom Realty out here, just bringing you guys information on the market, and just about real estate in general. You can catch our episodes weekly on YouTube anytime between Monday and Wednesday. We drop our video, or Fridays. Listen to our audio on iTunes, Spotify, pretty much anywhere that you can find
Wherever
podcasts.
you find your favorite podcast.
Your favorite podcast. And today's episode, guys, this is actually straight from an audience member. I had a buddy come out that watches the podcast, and he said, hey, man, love what you guys are doing. You guys give so much information, but I got to be honest with you, there's some terminology that you use that I don't really understand, so it makes it harder to follow. So on this episode, we're going to just break down some common terminology, some acronyms that you hear in real estate when you're dealing with real estate, talking to an agent.
Yep.
Just to help you guys understand a little bit more. And I think we have, 10 terms?
Yeah. And I mean, I think us three, we do a pretty good job with our clients breaking it down, right? But we also know that you guys may be using another agent. And it's a common thing.
Don't get me started on other agents right now.
Common thing that Oscar had a rough week. A common thing that, is you got people that are like, I've been in the industry for 20 years. They just adopt the terminology and assume that you guys know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So this is for anybody out there that's, had that conversation with an agent and walked away and been like, what in the fuck did I just listen to?
Yep.
We're going to make it easier for you today. So hopefully.
Absolutely. Well,
one that we didn't write down is single family.
Yeah.
That single family residence.
Yeah, absolutely. Because not a lot of people.
That's one we should talk about.
Yeah, we can add that in there.
So as you guys are listening, remember, like, follow, and subscribe. Mm-hmm. Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective on YouTube. We'll drop our contact information here at the end of the episode, but leave us a comment, guys. Let us know what you guys think. And we'd love, if you like what we're talking about, reviews.
Just one more. We need one more, guys. Let us hit our first milestone.
We need 100 more.
Well, I mean, thousands of more, of course. But
yes.
Let us hit our first subscriber milestone. We are at 99 subscribers on YouTube.
Will you be subscriber number 100?
Will it be you?
Will it be you?
But guys,
we'll shout you out on the next podcast.
Yeah, we will. If you're
we'll go have some bourbon with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, come on out.
As long as you're in Colorado.
Right?
If you're in Alaska,
we got people that listen. We got people that listen from Germany, looking at all the audio stuff. Germany,
we could
Switzerland.
expense that, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we'll fly out to. Hey, Oktoberfest is coming up.
Hey,
boom, a reason to go.
We might not make it back. But,
and speaking of alcohol, on this podcast, not only do we talk about real estate, but we also enjoy bourbon. All three of us. That's how this podcast was started. We just sitting down talking about real estate over a glass of bourbon, and we went, wait a second, we can just record this. And
somebody should film our ugly mugs
send it
and
out
see what
to
happens.
People. Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys are regular listeners, you know that we range from, craft bourbons from small distilleries to bourbons that you're going to find on a shelf in pretty much any bar. And today is one that if you do drink bourbon, or if you frequent bars that have a good bourbon selection, you'll know this bourbon that we have today. It's called Angels Envy. As you guys can see, bottle is pretty unique. Has some wings on the back of it. But I'm gonna pass it off to J-Mo. Give us a little bit about the background.
You want to pour while I do
that?
Yeah,
I'll pour it out.
So Angels Envy, it's a Kentucky bourbon, and I want to dive more into how they make the bourbon, because we talk a lot about the history and whatnot. But they got some fun facts on their website, boys and girls. So number one thing about Angels Envy, they have a bunch of different lineages of bourbon that they distill. This one particularly is aged in a ruby port wine cask. So we should get a little bit.
It's going to be a little bit more
fruitier of a finish, I would assume. And they do that because they like to bring out, which I think you'll like this because of that, the sweetness of the bourbons a little bit. But one of the things they do is, obviously, any distillery chars barrels. So if you don't know this, most barrels don't come charred. Obviously, right? You could buy charred barrels, but most bourbon makers will char them.
And have you guys seen the videos of how they char the barrels?
Yeah.
The big ass flamethrower.
Conveyor belt, and it's just
Yeah.
So it's a flamethrower, and they've got 3 different levels at which they char depending on the flavors that they're trying to extract from the wood. They either char it for 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or 35 seconds.
You said 15, 30, or 35?
Yep.
So you're telling me an extra 5 seconds brings out more
toasty.
At 5,000 degrees, yes, and here's why. So the reason they char the barrel, a lot of people assume that it's because they want a smoky flavor. Mm-hmm. When you think charred barrel, charred wood, smoked old fashioned, that's actually not it at all. There's no smoke flavor that comes out of these charred barrels. What it does is it primes the wood. and there's certain chemical makeups of different woods that will open up at different temperatures, hence the 15, the 30, and the 35 seconds. So, for example, there's a chemical called lignin, which produces vanillin, which is the vanilla flavor that we're used to, right? But based on, I know, it's crazy.
I just like that it's in.
Vanillin.
Like, vanilla
Vanillin.
benignin,
Vanillin. Vanillin. Ling, ding, ding,
I
ding.
like caramelin.
It's like Kentucky. Like, ding, 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 ding. But what that lignin does is as it heats up, it breaks down into these sugars and vanilla. And the longer that you try the barrel, the more the vanilla profile will come out of the wood itself. On top of that, the more that the wood breaks apart, the more flavor the bourbon is able to extract from the wood itself.
And
Science,
that's where you
bitches.
get the color too.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
the color, it's called white dog when it goes in, right? It's clear.
Yep,
Bourbon's
exactly.
clear.
White Dog bourbon's
And
clear,
that's
correct.
that's where this comes
Yeah.
from.
So
I
the
mean-
other piece of this is they have, if you ever tasted a bourbon, we've said it on here before. If you get like that toffee or caramel flavor, that comes from something called
Caramelin.
hemicellulose.
Hemicellulose.
Hemicellulose, which also breaks down into wood sugar the longer that it's charred.
Okay.
So they have figured out that 35 seconds for Angels Envy anyway is kind of the sweet spot. So every single barrel that they distill out of is charred for 35 seconds in American oak barrels.
Okay. So
The
this
more
bottle-
you know.
This bottle specifically is a 35-second chart.
Correct. Anything Angels Envy is 35 seconds.
Okay. Interesting.
And then Angels Envy. When you're waiting for the barrels to age, there's a certain percentage that evaporates, and that's the angel's cut. And the stuff that's sucked into the barrel, they call that the devil's cut.
Yep.
Okay. So nice.
Who makes Devil's Cut? Doesn't Jack
Jim.
Daniels or
I think
Jim?
Jim does.
Jim
Jim
Beam
Beam.
has a Devil's Cut.
Interesting.
Yes. Uh huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's got to be earthy.
That's got to be
Yeah, meaty.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a scotch almost.
grow some hair on
Well,
your
and
chest.
I'm interested because isn't port one of the most like dry wines?
Sweet.
No, it's
It's a
sweet.
sweet-
It's a
it's a dessert
breakfast. It's a dessert wine. So
Okay.
you have
Or a breakfast wine, depending on the
Yeah,
week.
yeah, hell,
Hey,
okay.
for Oscar this week, it's a breakfast wine.
It's a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and dessert.
That's
so
awesome.
when you come, ports are from Portugal, and they're very sweet. You have they're expensive.
Yeah.
The older they are, so you have a ruby, a 20, and a
Oh man, I could tell you. there's-
the third one, and that one's the
Oh,
one that's
yeah.
aged the longest.
Okay.
And I mean, and they're coming in little bottles.
Okay, that
And-
makes sense though.
and-
Because
Little bottles and little pours.
Yeah, and little pours. You get about that much.
Well,
you
that's-
don't get a full wine glass. You
the
get a little,
Madeira finish.
and they range all the way up to a couple $100.
Yeah,
Like
so
the
it's,
cheapest port ruby or a cheapest 20 is probably going to run you about $40.
Yeah,
Damn,
and then Madeira is the more expensive one. They also have, in the same vein, sherry is very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the three main ones, and
And-
that's why if you go to like a restaurant and get port,
Yeah.
the glasses are like itty glasses.
And,
Okay.
you know, the little sipper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and-
super
and
sweet.
The reason and that makes a lot more sense now because when I was bartending, I used to make a lot of New York sours, and it's basically just a whiskey sour with a float of port on the top of it.
Oh, okay.
So
Yep.
that makes sense because whiskey sours obviously are sweeter, and the port is going to complement it.
And the older, the thicker and sweeter.
Okay.
Like
They've got
rubies
a
are rubies
they've got
are very
one
light.
That it was finished in a Japanese Mizunara oak cask.
Oh dang.
Yeah.
Angel Envy does.
Uh-huh.
See, it's just,
Which is a very, very expensive
just-
Japanese port
I was
wine.
going to say there's such a variety.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's
I've
awesome.
never had the port Angels Envy, so that's
That
let's
might
see.
be-
I really enjoy when it's not just a hint or subtle. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, the port's there. It's good though.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not. I'm not drinking port. I'm drinking bourbon, but it's there.
Nice.
So see how this
Jesus.
goes.
Nice. Okay.
Kill my laptop
Well,
there, boys and
we
girls.
we've let this open up just a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and get a swirl and let's cheers it up. Get our sip in. Cheers.
Cheers.
And I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to it, but that cheers carries a little bit heavier of a note for this episode.
Wait, what?
What?
Today,
English?
this week, is the year mark for when we posted and started working on the first podcast episode for Real Estate Served on the Rocks.
You're right.
Approximately a year
Holy
ago.
Shit.
I have that video still on my computer with us three.
The
You, me,
one
you,
that
me, and
we're
JC.
sitting down and
Sitting in the office.
and awkward as shit.
With the whiteboard behind
And
us.
and we're like, man, what are we gonna talk about? No one's gonna want to listen to this.
Yeah.
That was also
We're
we were
gonna-
like I think
we're-
we were holding the
Yeah,
microphone.
we were holding the
Yeah.
mic and we were like this, and
I was like, JC was kicking the table. And doom,
Yep.
doom.
and we were like, man, how are we gonna feel 40 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Now it's like, shit, man, we're in.
Yeah, Charlie's in the
stop.
back like, guys, we got to wrap this up.
Well, hey guys, just thank you so
Wow.
much for sticking with us. 0 to
Dude,
100.
A year later.
A year
A
later.
year later.
It's been that
wild,
long.
man.
Yep, a year
Wow.
later.
It's wild.
Doing
It's
it for a
actually
year.
so it's super funny. So I was in Vegas, right, this last weekend, and just it being a year, and we were talking about JC. So he was into watches.
Yep.
I think I've talked to you guys about like if you're watch people
yeah.
or not,
Oh, yeah.
and there's like a whole cult or whatever. Anyway, he was very into this specific watch. Right before he passed away last year, Omega and Swatch did a
Yes.
Was it that leather bound one?
It's the one. It's the planet.
Yeah,
the
the
planet one, the
version.
solar system one.
The solar system one. So they have a specific watch for every planet that's got a specific, I guess, chroma, face,
Yep.
color, and a story, right?
Wow.
And they go from the sun all the way up to Pluto, so on and so forth. But you can't order them online. Like you can only get them in Vegas or a Swatch store, and they've got like I think 10 or 15.
Yep.
I went to Vegas, and I got one.
Nice.
No shit.
Yeah.
Just don't tell me you
That
got
is
Pluto
awesome.
because it's not a planet.
No, but the
just
Pluto
kidding.
one is dope because it's
Is
like
it?
it's like a steel gray and then a red outline
Hell
with
yeah.
a tan face. This one's Jupiter though.
Nice.
That's good for you, dude. That's
So
awesome.
I was like, man, I got to go to the Swatch store and see.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get Mercury just because it was hot in Vegas. I was like, it's a
Yeah.
hot planet.
Yep.
It's like a
Yep.
gunmetal. They didn't have it, so I was asking the lady. I was like, hey, are you guys ever going to sell these online? She goes, we will never offer these online. They are only in
Wow.
store.
That's awesome.
So the only way you can get it is if you go there. So.
That is awesome.
But yeah, so cheers to JC for turning me on to
Cheers.
that.
Cheers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and this is I've never been like a watch guy, so
It's cool.
I was like, yeah, it's my first kind of foray into like nicer watches. Like
Yeah.
this is the most I've spent on a watch that's not an Apple Watch.
I was gonna
right?
say I got a small.
Hey, what's wrong with that?
No. Like I'm saying,
Oh.
like Apple Watch, that was the most expensive one. I've never spent money on watches before.
Yeah, I'm not a
and like
big watch.
something caught. It was there. It was Sunday morning. We were leaving at like noon,
Hell
and
yeah.
I took the mile walk to New York, and walked in. I was like, give me Jupiter.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
a
and-
lot of cool weird anniversaries.
cheers to cheers to the
2
year.
weeks.
Cheers to the
2 weeks before, a year and 2 weeks or 3 weeks before that, we were at Topgolf.
Yes.
And we were just talking.
Yep.
I
That was in August,
we
I
were
think.
just talking, and I didn't even know we didn't even play golf. We didn't even
We
swing.
swung like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and then I can't remember what we were talking about. And then Jameson says we should have recorded this.
Yep.
And then like I'm telling you, the podcast should be. And I was like, this is not going to go.
I think
anywhere.
it's because we were talking about that was right before rates jumped to like 7% for the first
Yeah,
time.
and we were
in September, and we're like, what do we think's going to happen, and all this different shit, and we're like,
we were talking about going to another brokerage's
oh yes,
conference.
yeah, EXP
Yeah.
Yep.
in Vegas. That's what it was.
Crazy.
That's what it was.
I wasn't even in the seat at that point.
Nope.
I was
Nope,
just
you were behind the
camera.
scenes still.
Yeah,
Yep.
we were like,
Wild.
I was the hand.
we need
Yep.
to get someone to help us with this because we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, we have an idea. We have no idea how to execute it, but
Right.
We got it. And here we are, 1 year later, 1 subscriber away from 100
Look at
after
that.
only starting in January. Thank you guys
yeah,
so
as I
much.
say, the YouTube channel started in March.
Yeah, you're right. March.
It was March,
Wow.
April, May, June,
Doing
July,
good.
August. So 5 months, 100 subscribers.
Doing good. And we haven't
thank
even
you, guys.
started. We haven't even started chopping up the bourbon portion yet.
No, we
This
haven't
is
done
all
any-
straight real
yeah, we haven't-
estate.
Yeah, this
So,
is just
this is
us
awesome.
dropping knowledge bombs, baby.
Yep.
Love it.
Well, we've let it open. I've been swirling it around. First off, Oscar, you were 100% on point with the color, man. Like
Yeah.
the amber color on this is
Yes.
just pleasing. Like
It really is.
this is, you've heard me say it before, but like this is the color that they had on the cane in Jurassic Park.
I was
Like,
gonna say
the
we're just
amber.
gonna call it the Jurassic Park color.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, even the little to no particulates in it, like you can't really see anything going
Nope.
on. On the nose, you hit the nail on the head. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Like
It
A little
smells
bit of
like
a burn.
pork.
A little bit of a
Smells like
burn,
pork.
but
this is,
it's a 90 proof, so it's 45%.
Yeah, but this one I can actually like put my nose
Yeah.
in it,
Yes.
sniff it. That's definitely getting that toffee. Vanilla.
It is one of my. This has always been one of my favorite bourbons, just in general. Like if I see it at a store, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
It's sippable.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a first sip. Smooth is an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
That's wow.
It's like an angel's bottom.
Jeez.
Is that yeah? That's a good
Smooth
picture.
as an angel. Well, you know
Oh,
those
yeah.
Renaissance pictures of the angels are always babies.
Yes.
Well, doing smooth as an angel baby's bottom. All right,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay. All right.
Angel baby's bottom.
Angel baby bottom.
Man,
The angel baby
I don't-
bottom.
I don't
An-
know
an-
that.
whatever.
Angel baby bottom
Cut
boy.
grass flavor guy.
I
He's got nothing.
I got nothing. It's good.
It's good.
That's great.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
It's good. I like it.
It's
smooth.
definitely on the nose. There is a little bit of a burn.
Yep.
But once you get that first sip in, you kind of get past that.
Mm-hmm.
And we always talk about that later feeling, that sit at the back of your tongue feeling. Very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely toffee, vanilla. I can see why this is a good sipper.
Oh, yeah.
Because especially for a conversation, you let it sit. I mean, we're still in a warehouse, guys. So, it's still warm in here.
Yep.
We're here for about 45 minutes to an hour before we start planning and everything. And still at room temperature, this is not unbearable at all.
No.
And I mean, I think that speaks wonders for the bourbon in general.
I'm looking for the port. It's subtle.
It's very subtle.
It's
yeah.
very subtle, and it's more. I'm getting a lot of plum. Like
Yeah.
a plummy-
Have you guys had the
You're right. Absolutely.
the Basil Hayden's that's aged in port?
Mm-hmm.
Way too sweet.
the purple.
Like it
Bottle.
overtakes
Yeah.
the rest of the whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
This
the
I feel like
burgundy
more
bottle, whatever.
complements it.
Yes.
Than anything else.
Well-
but it's not the flavor profile.
You know-
I guess.
Yes, and the only one that has done it in a port barrel that tastes like port, Art of Spirit. Their port
Oh,
was it really it's a bourbon finished in a port barrel, and it really does taste
Yeah.
like port. Like
Wow.
it's prominent, but it's not. It's balanced well.
Yeah.
This one's subtle. It's good.
I mean, the cool thing for me is again, Angels Envy is a more popular brand, more, I would say nationwide. You're going to find it on a bar, but I went to that Rocky Mountain Cigar Festival, and it was so cool to see all the craft distillers just from Colorado, and each one of them had a unique flavor, had something different to bring. I got some contacts, so hopefully we can get them on. I had one that was really excited.
What was the buy-in for that? What was the cost to be
A part
there?
of it.
Yeah.
I think it was 150 for a member ticket, and then or 150 to 250, and then 500. You were VIP, so you got into a special smoking section. You got to sit down there, but then you also got a custom backpack. So that bag that I have, that cigar bag, a backpack full of cigars.
Jeez,
Like
that's worth it.
Like a hiking backpack full of cigars.
That's
So,
dope.
Yeah. So definitely, guys, check that out. I made a video for it for a client, a little recap video. She played pool, but it was a cool event. You guys would like it a lot, specifically just for
I love cigars.
the bourbons and the
I mean,
different-
it was a lot of cigars. He's brought a bag that's like halfway full.
Yeah.
So in the next
Yeah, it
few
looks like
episodes-
the export ban on Cuba was lifted.
Yeah,
exactly.
Charlie's gonna come to the next podcast with a raspberry.
I've been trying.
He's been smoking.
I've been trying.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's like Bruce
Hello.
Buffer.
Welcome to today's podcast. Well,
It's
guys,
time.
like we said, while we're drinking Angels Envy today, we just kind of want to break down some terminology for you. We're gonna put everything in the description for you, but follow along. And if you have any questions on it, as always, reach out. So, Jameson, why don't you throw out the first one?
Yeah,
for
I
us?
think what I want to do is just group these, right? So
Yeah.
we'll do like the lending side
Okay.
and then the actual like real estate home buying process side.
Cool.
And we'll start with lending. And I think just a couple of the terms, and I'm gonna have Oscar kind of jump on some of these, but we wanted to originally talk about VOE, right? We hear about VOE, and what were the other two?
It's the V stands for verification, and across the board you're going to have a VOE, verification of employment, a VOR, verification of rents if
Yep.
you're renting, and a VOD, which is verification of deposits.
Right.
And obviously they're pretty self-explanatory. The deposit one, the lender's going to more than likely ask for 2 months of your bank statements
Yep.
and or assets. So that comes into play with the VOD.
Mm-hmm.
The VOE is verification of employment. So they know that you're employed, but they want to know what your status is going to be long term. So within that form comes with a signature page for the supervisor, what the likelihood that you're going to be working there long term, and then the date of when you started and continuing on.
So I think it's important too because when you go for a pre-approval and you go under contract, obviously they do the VOE once you go under contract, but do they do it again?
Absolutely. They started doing it right before closing,
Yep.
just to make sure you're going to be employed.
Yep. So a lot of people will say, hey, I'm employed now, but I'm planning on switching jobs. Number one, we'll just go la 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 la. We can't hear that. But here's the important piece.
That's an industry standard.
Yeah, the important piece is they will check
They will.
prior to close, and it's usually because we'll get a clear
They'll do
close.
a soft pull on credit too.
Correct,
So
yes.
Those few things.
Yeah, so there's a reason we wanted to bring the verification of employment up, because you'll hear it and a lot of people will assume, okay, they'll get maybe a call from their HR, hey, you were verified as an employer. That does not mean you're in the clear to do anything else. Okay, obviously the general rule of thumb is you do nothing out of the ordinary between when you're in a contract and after you close. I have heard, and I don't know if this is true, Oscar, but have you heard of them doing verification of employment after the date of closing occasionally?
You know, I think I heard something
I've
like
heard
that.
a couple
but
that
at
have had
that
that
point, it's
happen.
like, it's closed.
True.
But I've heard,
Yeah.
I've heard something like that.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's other softwares now that big corporations use. It's a 1-800 number or a website that they could do it too. But if you're a small mom and pop shop or a smaller business, it is a form that they send out to your management or supervisor or HR, whoever handles that. Owner, if you're a small mom and pop, the owner says, yeah, we love him. He's here forever, blah, blah, blah. If HR sucks, they're going to be like, I don't know. I hate that guy.
This guy's
I don't know.
just
He's on probationary terms.
Probably. He's on PIP.
What?
Performance improvement plan. But so it is important.
Okay,
Very, very important.
and VOR finally is verification of rent. If you've been renting, they're going to want to know your status. Have you been late on rent? Have you been a nuisance? So it doesn't get that nitty gritty, but what's terms of.
And what's interesting on that too?
Or if you're a private party, the lease.
Yep.
So what's really interesting on that too with the verification of the rent stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's companies now that are basically what they do is they charge you $15 a month, and that's on top of your rent through your rental company. But then because you pay that, they report it to your credit association as making on-time payments.
Correct.
So I wonder with that, if somebody who is renting does that, would that give them, better, I guess, more legs to stand on, because it's also helping their credit.
Well, I think from a credit standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
And from a verification of rent standpoint, it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to give you a better or worse rate on your mortgage. It's just going to say, hey, there's a track record of them
payments,
paying.
yeah.
So
Right.
it's more of a yes or no.
And two things with that is one is, in the industry, disclosure is always best, especially with the underwriter, right? So it'll help.
I call him the Undertaker, but yes. the underwriter.
Absolutely, 100%. And then I think that's great because it doesn't benefit you when you pay on time rents.
Yeah.
But once you don't pay on time, you're going
You get
collections,
hammered. Yep.
and they'll report it to the credit company.
Yeah.
Why not the opposite?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that's
Yep.
fair, and it'll build credit.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have any credit to build credit, you got a secured credit card. You have to wait some months. If you're already doing that, $15 a month, that's cheaper than opening a secure credit card because you're doing it with your own money.
Yep.
Yep.
At this point, that's what $150, $200 minimum.
Something like that.
Secured credit cards, $300 to $500.
Yep.
And it's your money you have to put in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's a great.
Yeah.
way
I like
to
it.
go.
Awesome.
I like it.
I like it
Awesome.
a lot.
Charlie, let's stay on the loan side.
Yeah.
And we'll go, a lot of people will see this, and I think a lot of people think they know what it is, but they don't really.
Okay.
LTV.
Who? Loan to value. It's loan to value is basically what they're going to give you on your loan versus the value of the home, right? So that's why when you guys hear appraisals,
Yep.
that's what that LTV is tied to. Because when a lending company is giving you money to buy a home and they're allowing you a certain amount, what they're then going to do is use that LTV and do an appraisal on the home that you're looking to buy. So then they will send somebody out from their company that will appraise the home, basically
Third
create
party. It's
a third party, yeah, that has nothing to do with the transaction.
Unbiased.
Unbiased. That has nothing to do with transaction, that will then value your home. They go in, they look at the structure, they look at cabinetry, they look at the surrounding areas, your foundation, all of that gets played into it. And then when they give you the appraisal, virtually what that does is it tells you, hey, we're going to give you this much amount, but the home is worth this. And a lot of the time, let's say they give you a loan of $350,000, but the appraiser goes out, and now the home is actually worth $375,000. That's something that you have to be aware of, because that company is not going to give you the amount above that loan. That's something that you have to bridge the gap, and that's called
Appraisal gap. Yep.
Right? So that's why loan to value is so important. So Oscar, was there anything else that you wanted to throw in for LTV?
Yeah, a good way to look at it is it's the other side of what you know of what you're bringing in, right? If you're going to FHA, 3.5%. If you're going conventional, it's 5%. VA, 100%. And on the flip side, the lender's looking at it from an LTV stance. So they're looking at the bank's going to lend you 90% if you're going 10% down. 95 conventional because you're putting 5% down. You're 90. What is it? 7.5 for FHA.
96.5, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. So that's the other side of that coin. The fact of the matter is, LTV is set in stone, regardless of what the appraiser comes back. Because if the bank is gonna put a lien on your house, that's what a mortgage is. You know, where tables say it's a different story here. It's a lien on your home, and they're putting up 95% to purchase the home, and then they're going to use the asset to back the loan. So the higher the LTV, the more risk the bank is. The lower the LTV, if you have an LTV of 80%, that means you're putting 20% down, and the bank says, okay, they're not walking away from this. That's 20,000. 20%. Round numbers, easy numbers. $100,000. That's 20 grand.
Yeah.
Yep.
500,000. That's that's what, 100 grand.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's how LTV plays. If the appraisal comes in high, the LTV is still stuck at what your original purchase price is.
And that's
that's a little bit more in depth. But the surface of LTV, loan to value.
Yeah. So basically, what it is, the way I like to explain to people is, people want to know, like, you get, we're going to talk about this in a second, but you get advertised rates on mortgages, and those will change based on the loan to value, which is essentially, like Oscar said, your down payment. The way I look at it, and the way that I think the easiest way for anybody listening to this or watching to understand it is, the more skin in the game you have as a consumer, the better your rates are going to get, because the bank is not as exposed, right?
A loan is a risk assessment.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's a risk assessment of who you are.
Yeah.
Jameson, you are the Bank of Jameson. I say, Mr. Bank, I need to borrow $800,000.
Yep.
Where's my money?
Yep.
You'll be like, no.
Yeah.
Well,
800,000 for what?
Who are you? Yeah, exactly.
And
so
can you actually pay me this back?
here's the house, and it's 800 grand. Where's my money? It doesn't work that way.
Right.
I got to bring them a story. My story is my name. Here's my credit. I've been on time. I'm pretty good at paying my bills. Check. Here's my work history. I've worked at this job for this long. This is how much I make. Okay. Check. Here are my assets. I own this. I have an IRA. I have bank savings. Here are my assets. Okay. Cool. Because if we foreclose, you'll have, or you have backing, right?
Yep.
So here's my story, and the bank says, okay, let's do a risk assessment of who this person is. Everything checks out. Then that's what plays into your rate.
Yep.
If you're the less of a risk you are, the better the rate you're going to have.
Exactly. Because the bank's not going to not have to cover their ass, essentially. Which leads us directly into the next thing that I think is very misunderstood. PMI. Ooh. So PMI is essentially private mortgage insurance. And that is something that's tacked on as an extra cost to everybody's mortgage if you're under 20% down. Which also means if you're under, or over 80% loan to value.
79%.
79.5 or whatever it is, 79%. So
And
private,
also known as MI, mortgage insurance.
mortgage insurance,
MI,
private mortgage insurance.
whatever.
You'll hear them both, right? And essentially what it is it is a percentage of the loan, and it depends on the loan, whether it's a federal housing administration loan or FHA or a conventional loan. The amount that PMI or private mortgage insurance is, it's a percentage. And we've talked about this on a previous episode with Colin, I believe, but it can range anywhere from 0.5% a month to 1.25%, depending on
FHA standard 5%.
what it is.
No
And-
matter what, it's 5%. With conventional, it varies. So FHA does a premium.
Yes.
So they're going to collect a premium. Standard mortgage,
1.25%, I think, or something like that.
conventional doesn't.
Right.
So FHA does collect a premium, and then you're at 0.5%.
Yep.
Conventional, it's a
varies.
range.
Something
it varies.
something that's important to note, and Jameson, you mentioned it when we first started talking about it, but something that's very important to note is you're going to get all of this information at one time.
Yes.
It's not like they're going to give you, your
Correct.
loan and then say, oh yeah, you signed this, by the way, this is your PMI.
Here's your glossary.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, they're going to give you all of that up front. So it's not like you're going to go, okay, I have to account my mortgage payment's going to be this, and then, okay,
Yep.
mortgage insurance is going to be this. You're
So-
going to get one solid payment.
Yeah, and a good way to look at it is in another acronym maybe.
PITI?
I'll throw it PITI. PITI, and then there's MI, right? So PITI is what you pay for your home. It's your principal. That means how much you're paying to the loan that you're actually getting. The interest, how much interest they're charging, how much is going to the interest. Taxes, how much taxes on your home you're paying. And your taxes are annually, but they break them down by month. So your payment on the PITI is monthly. And then your insurance, not to be mistaken with mortgage insurance, your homeowner's insurance, what insures the actual physical structure of your home.
Yep.
And then you have MI.
Yep.
on top of
And
that.
if we keep it on PMI, private mortgage insurance, if I have an FHA loan, right, Federal Housing Administration backed loan, where I can come with 3.5% down at minimum, when can I get rid of that mortgage insurance?
You could get rid of it when your value exceeds your loan amount 20%.
But you got to refinance out of it.
Not necessarily. With
Okay.
FHA, yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
with
With
FHA,
FHA, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
With conventional,
Correct.
you can call, and it's typically a year to 2 years that
Right.
you can call them
It's
and
going to
say,
be under 80%, right?
say, hey, my house, I got it at a good price, and my value exceeds the 20%. And then they send out an appraiser, but it's a lot looser
Yeah.
because I did that.
Yep.
Within when my second year came in, I called him up, send the appraiser out here, and he looked at my house, said, I got it, and
So
they dropped it.
There's a reason I bring this up. We saw over the last 2 years
I hope
the
you were gonna go
lowest
Yep.
interest rates we have ever seen in the history of housing, okay? And we've also seen that FHA tends to be cheaper. So there was a lot of people that bought homes on an FHA loan for 2.75, 2.5, 3%, okay? But because of that, and they only brought 3.5% down, obviously smart move, right? I would say leverage your debt as you can. We've talked about it before. But that means that they've got mortgage insurance. And on an FHA loan, like we just discussed, it is there forever
Until you refinance out of it.
until you refinance
And
out
now
of it.
it makes no goddamn sense.
Exactly, because now
refinance
here's where
out
the
of it.
math comes in. Let's say my mortgage insurance, I think on my house right now, I'll just use me as an example because, we're real human beings. I have an FHA loan on my house, right? I bought my house for $540,000. We put 3.5% down. So my mortgage was, call it 510, something like that, right? My interest rate right now is a 3.125. And I didn't have fantastic credit when I bought this house, but I have mortgage insurance on it. My mortgage insurance per month on my home is about $237 a month on top of what my actual mortgage is, which I think is like $2,600. So I think my total is like $29, let's call it, right, for a $540,000 house. My loan to value is to a point where I could refinance out of an FHA loan and drop my mortgage insurance. But here's the kicker. Rates right now are over 7%. So if I refinance, yes, I'm not paying mortgage insurance anymore. So I
But you're
save
paying a whole lot of interest.
$237 a month on my mortgage insurance, but I'm paying an extra $600 a month on now a conventional loan at 80% loan to value. So it's important to know that on a conventional loan, and this is why the difference is, because you can drop it without refinancing, right? Let's say you don't really know where rates are. If you can get away with a conventional loan and a 4 to 5% down payment and afford the monthly mortgage insurance, when you refi out of that, once you hit 80% loan to value, you don't have to when you reach 80% loan to value on a conventional loan, you don't have to refi to drop the mortgage insurance, and you can save $200-300 a month.
Yeah.
If you're on an FHA, which a lot of people are over these last 2 years, do the math and be very careful because it could seem very tempting to drop that mortgage insurance, but you now have to refi and pay closing costs and everything else for a refi loan
And up your payment.
into a higher interest payment, but lower with no monthly
And there's
insurance.
factors
Yes.
with MI, right?
Yeah.
Because I went conventional. I put a little bit over 5% down, and my mortgage insurance was $175 a month. But obviously, my credit was actually really good. I worked on it for like 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years ago, about 12 years ago, my credit was tank. It was in the garbage, 500s. And I worked my butt off. I mean, I'm proud to say my credit score is like 780. I mean, it's pretty damn good. But I put in
White girl credit.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's Starbucks credit.
And it took me some work and growing pains, but I got there. So my mortgage insurance was only $175.
Yep. But that's
Nice.
important, right? Because if you're looking at buying a house now, let's say in the next 6 to 12 months, and you're looking at, well, you know what? I've got decent credit, and we'll talk about DTI in a second. I can afford to put 5% down versus 3.5%. It might be worth it to take that extra 2.5% hit or 1.5% hit on the down payment, so that you're going to eat mortgage insurance regardless, right? But you'll have the opportunity, if for some reason rates don't come down significantly, you won't have to refi to get rid of that extra payment a month. So just something to think about. Have your lender do the math. We can do the math, but we'll always refer you to our lender partners and say, hey, here's what the goal is and the plan is. What is the best case scenario for this particular client with your particular, interests and goals and so on and so forth.
As a realtor, you said we are people. We're human. We still have that knee-jerk reaction as, goddamn industry, right? I dropped my mortgage insurance, so my payment went down $175, but my insurance went up. I was like, get offset. They're trying to stick it to me. And then this year it renewed. My insurance doubled.
Yep.
It went to $5,000.
Damn.
There's this episode we did two episodes ago, episode 37, I believe, talking about exactly why your insurance has doubled. So if you guys want to tune in and are curious about that, because it is going to be a big hot topic, tune into the YouTube channel, episode 37, homeowners insurance.
And when I'm going with that is I called them up.
Yep.
I called them up and I was like, hey, you got to do something, because Allstate's calling me. They could do it for $1,400. So, there's factors within your payment. Talk to your realtor. I mean,
absolutely.
We may not be selling you a house, but we're relationship people.
Oh, yeah.
We want to give you the information, because at the end of the day, I want you to feel comfortable calling me about insurance, car buying. I don't know. I just want to be your go-to. So when you do buy a house, you know that I'm knowledgeable.
I was thinking about making a TikTok earlier about how being a realtor is very similar to being in the mob, because we just know people.
Yeah.
Somebody comes in and be like, hey, man,
The connections.
you got a guy that can find cats?
I got a
a
guy.
fucking guy. I'll call Jimmy right now.
guy.
Hey, you got a guy that has 3 wrenches, but they have to be silver? Yeah, I got a guy.
I got a guy.
I got a guy.
That and
Networking,
we're also
baby.
I got a guy.
and we're also in times therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
So are we? What do we got next? I think we're only
we're gonna do. I don't know, but we'll do DTI, because I think that's also important, because a lot of people try and calculate their DTI, and I'll let you guys explain what that is. But people really don't quite understand that there's a front end and a back end, and how that plays into what they can be actually qualified for. And I think it's helpful, because once you guys do understand how it's calculated, you can do it on your own. Granted, there's obviously calculators on the internet, but if you just want to sit there and kind of take a look at your own finances and go, hey, where is my debt to income at? We're going to give you kind of the 2 ways to look at it.
And that's exactly what DTI is. So DTI stands for debt to income. And the reason that it's so important to lenders is, of course, as we talked about, not only do they want to see how much you're making, that you do have a job and you can make the payments, they want to know how deep in the hole you already are before they give you more money that you're going to have to pay off. So DTI stands for debt to income. And Oscar, how do they look at that? What goes into it?
The debt to income ratio, each bank has different guidelines, right? But the bank doesn't want you to spend more than 50% of your income on your mortgage, right? So it has to. So you talked about the front and the back end. It's the housing ratio and your total liabilities. So your housing ratio has to be super low. I think it's like 32 for FHA or something like that. 30%,
It's like 32 to 37.
32 to 37% of your income cannot exceed your the payment, right? So an easy way to calculate it is you take your payment, it's called $2,500, and your income. Let's say you make about $5,000 a month. So you take the little number, you divide it by the big number, and you get a percentage. So that's an easy way to do your DTI. So, but the total DTI is your total liabilities. That's what is on credit. So the mortgage and car payment, credit cards, anything that's going to report on credit, combined with your mortgage, that's your back end ratio.
So the big ones.
So
that
there's
we'll see,
2 of them.
Well, the big ones that we'll see on the back end ratio, right? Any kind of car loan, car payment, your mortgage itself, or whatever that is, your credit card payments, right?
And
student loans.
Student loans.
Coming up
That's a big
in
one.
September, right?
Yep.
Medical
September,
bills
it's here.
normally are not calculated, right? So those are the big 4.
So, but then that dips into something else, right? Collection and
Correct.
stuff
Yes.
like that with
Yeah,
FHA.
yeah. Yep.
But it's it's not us telling you or dictating what you can and can't do with your money. It's your money. You do what you want to do. But because of that debt to income ratio, we say, don't make big purchases because it's going to affect your VOD. Don't make big purchases because it's going to affect your DTI. So that's two things now, right? Because banks see your withdrawals from your bank statements are like, what the hell was this $5,000 withdrawal? They're going to want to know.
Well, hey, and guys, that's not just cars. That's also, you're not going to Ashley Furniture and buying a full
nothing.
piece couch set.
You don't make any purchases on credit during the home ownership process. Don't make anything on credit. If you have to, go for it. Unless it's dire, don't make any purchases on credit or big purchases, period, because that comes into debit cards.
Yep.
Because it's coming out of your bank account. So you're going to screw up your DTI, and it's happened to me. Was showing a good friend of ours, and he wasn't tight on his debt to income ratio, but he was there. And we're on a contract. Everything is looking golden. We go to inspection, and what does he do? He rolls up in his brand new Lexus. I looked over at him and I said, please tell me that's your sister's car. He goes, nope, I got a deal on it. I picked it up 3 or 4 days ago. And I was like, all right, I'm going to call this inspection. And he's like, what? I was like, we're not inspecting this house. You just screwed yourself, dude. You better have a policy that you could take this thing back or figure out how you're going to refinance it, because now you can't buy a house. Because it was like a $700 payment.
It's wild.
So we talked about this about 6 episodes ago. I want to reiterate it. The number one reason people can't afford houses is their car payments. So just understand that. Like, if you're paying on the average the $500 to $600 a month on your car payment, it's going to affect your debt to income. That's why we're talking about it. So for simple math, let's say you make $10,000 a month. Okay, it's $120,000 a year. For the front end, if we have to be at or below, call it 35%, that means your mortgage payment can't be more than what?
$3,500?
$3,500. Very simple way to do it, right? That's at 35%. Now, let's say you go FHA. I think they can go up to 50 to 55%.
55, 65
so let's say
sometimes.
Let's say
depending
55%.
on the bank.
55%. You make that $10,000 a month. Your monthly debt expenditures, including your mortgage that you were qualifying for, would be $5,500 a month, which means if your mortgage is $3,500 a month, right, then the rest of your debt, credit card payment, car payment, and student loans can't exceed $1,500 or $2,500, or sorry, $2,000. Can't exceed $2,000, right?
Right, 55.
A $700 a month car payment is almost 40% of that.
Yep.
Here's the other thing that people don't understand about debt to income. Oscar, I have a credit card, okay, that's got a $10,000 limit, and I've got $7,000 on it. My minimum payment is $135 a month, right? But I pay $350 a month. What does the bank take into account?
$170.
Right? The minimum payment.
Minimum payment.
It's not what you guys pay, right? There's people that have a $3,000 credit card expenditure, and their minimum payment is $75 a month, but you guys pay $200 a month to get over it. The bank isn't looking at the $200 a month. When they qualify you for an amount, it's based on your minimum card payment. The other thing that people don't quite understand is when I say you make $10,000 a month, that is pre-tax. That is gross income, okay? So if you're sitting there going, well, I make $10,000 a month, I can afford $3,500 a month because that leaves me with $6,500 left over. It doesn't, because at its base level, that $10,000 a month is pre-tax. So whatever you pay in taxes, your health insurance that comes out of your paycheck, if you pay to a 401k, that's what your actual spending money is. The bank will qualify you off of gross income. It's important because people will assume that the bank's qualifying them off of their paycheck that they get, their take-home paycheck. It is not. So all of a sudden, people are like, wait a second, I thought I had $3,500 a month more than I really do.
No.
So pay attention.
And again, the bank doesn't want to lose, and the bank's not in the business of real estate. So that's why they're tight on those ratios, because if you're coming in with 1%, all right, that's big risk, and now you're stretching yourself. The bank knows that you're going to walk away from this, and now they have to hire attorneys for foreclosure. They have to throw it on the market with an REO agent, which is funny because we're talking about acronyms. And the last administration, the guy that they put in for the fair housing, didn't know what REO was.
Yep.
But he's head of that.
But he was the best.
That was crap. That was crap. He should at least know what REO was.
Should have listened
Real
to
estate
the podcast.
owned, right? Yeah. Bank owned properties. So anyway, that's a whole nother subject. I don't care what side of the coin you're on that one. But the bank doesn't want to have to go through those processes. It's expensive for them.
It is.
Right? That's why the foreclosure process takes so long, because they're going to give you some time to make it right.
Yeah. So,
So
JMO,
a quick calculation just for you that are listening or watching. The total workable standard hours that you can have is 2,080 hours. So if you make $25 an hour, 25 times 2,080 divided by 12, that's your monthly.
nice.
That's something that was my
Nice.
mortgage days.
Yeah, that's good info right there. JMO, how much more do we have left in the lending section?
I mean, we can touch on a bunch of different stuff, but if we want to go to the real estate side, we can.
Let's go real estate.
No, honestly, I was just gonna say we're already 50 minutes in, boys.
Yeah, we can do. Let's,
So
let's
we-
touch
so
on a couple for real estate.
a quick fire.
You want to do a quick fire?
Quick
All right.
fire.
Quick fire. APR.
Go for it.
Cars.
Go for
Annual
it.
percentage rate. APRs are going to take in consideration all your fees when you apply for financing, right? Your interest rate is going to be your interest rate that dictates your monthly payment, but then you factor in your closing costs, all the fees that are in the loan, and then that calculates your APR.
Yep. Points.
Ooh, points. So points when you're talking about buying a house, you can use points to then buy down your rate, and each point, correct me if I'm wrong, is worth $1,000.
Each point's 1% of the loan.
1%.
So 1% of the loan, but a lot of the time you're going to see 1,000 plus.
Well, yeah. So if I have a $400,000 loan, 1 point's going to cost me $4,000 at the closing table.
Yes.
Right.
So there's a big matrix behind that too. If you're dealing with a broker, there's a matrix that has their standard par rate.
Yes.
Right. That means they're not making any money from the bank or the wholesale supplier, and that's what the minimum rate they'll take before it's going to cost them money, and then they'll pass that cost over to you.
Correct.
So if they're because they want to make, they don't work for free. They want to make some money, so they'll take above par rate, and then that's what they offer you. If you're going to take par, they might charge you up front. Now, if you're going to take a lower rate, which is 2-1 buy down and whatnot, then they're paying more to get that rate, which they'll pass on to you, and then that's what points.
Yep.
All the points come.
And
Well-
the reason this is important is because last month we hit 7.5% mortgage rates, right, on average. The lenders don't have tables for that high of rates right now.
Yeah.
So that 7.5% was still costing on average either a half a point to 3/4 of a point to get to a 7.5%. So as a consumer, it just means when you're looking at your good faith estimate, saying, hey, how much is this loan going to cost me? And all of a sudden you see a line item that's going to cost you an extra $5,700 a month, or sorry, $5,700 at closing to get that 7.5%. That's because it's points.
Yep.
Right. So a lot of times if you're scrolling online, what's the best mortgage rate to get right now? And you get all these different things, offer. It'll say, like today, I saw one for 6.125%. Then you look at it and said 4 points.
Yep.
Okay, so let's do easy math. On a $500,000 house, 4 points, that's 5,000 times 4. That's $20,000. It's going to cost you at closing to get a 6.125.
And that's why new construction, they've budgeted for that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, and that's the other thing that I wanted to say too is the important thing about one thing that I want to notate about points is, you hear interest rates 7.5%, 6.8%, 7.2%. When we say points, we are not talking 1.0 point. We are talking 0.1 point. So what I mean by that is you're not going to go and buy 1 point and go from a 7% interest rate to a 6% interest rate.
Nope.
Doesn't work like that.
No.
You're buying down that 0.5.
It's a sliding scale. So
Yep.
the more you buy down, the more those points cost.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Exactly.
not a linear graph. If I go from a 7.5
And
to
every
a
bank
7,
has different scenarios. I mean, it's just I think Ant has just one for like their first time home buyers. It's a standard $3,000, and it depends. You could go down. Sometimes you could go down a half a point,
Yeah.
or you could go down 3/4.
Yeah. So for example, to Charlie's point, right? Let's say I want to go from a 7.5 to a 7, and it cost me 1 point. Okay. But if I want to go to a 7 to a 6.5, it's not going to cost me one more point.
Yes.
It could cost me another 2 points. Then if I go from a 6.5 to a 6, it could cost me 5 points.
Look at the point as what the bank is going to charge you to get there.
Correct.
Yes.
Whether it's a percentage point of
Because
what
it's
the
still
total
costing them
cost or
money
not.
to borrow that money
Right.
to finance your mortgage.
Yes.
Easy
All right.
enough. All right. CMA.
Comparative market analysis, or, I mean, I've heard some people say competitive market analysis, but
Current market analysis.
current market analysis. But basically, what that stands for in any iteration
Confusing
of
market
it,
analysis.
yeah, confusing, right? What that means is your realtor is going to go through and look at properties that match yours. So if it's a 2-bed, 3-bath, you have 1,400 square foot, your realtor is going to go through and go, okay, I'm going to look for the houses that are 4-bed, 3-bath, 1,500 square feet. And then they're going to see what those homes sold for in comparison to yours. Now, that is very basic. That is, like as basic as it can get, just going square footage and bedrooms. Because obviously we have other things like size of the yard, covered patio, all these other things that add
Cul-de-sac,
to
no
it.
cul-de-sac, backs open space, doesn't back to open space.
At the
AC,
end
there's
of
not
the
a
day,
Pool,
AC.
pool.
at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you could look at a real basic way is looking what's sold in the neighborhood.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, what you really want to do is compare apples to apples.
Yep.
Yes.
And this is
absolutely.
very important. When we're doing a comparative, confusing market analysis, do we look at homes that are active?
No.
If you're going to list just to see what your competition is,
Yeah, yeah.
But if I'm purchasing,
you need to
or
see what
even if
closed.
I'm listing, because again, you can see what the competition is, but that house may sit for 67 days at that price point.
Industry standard is apples to apples. If you have a ranch, look for ranches.
Yep.
You can't go further than you're going to try to stay within a quarter-mile radius, max half a mile. You're going to want to look for, I just went blank. Timeline, right? You got to stay within 90 days of the last sale.
It's just super funny because it used to be 180, and how quickly this market has been. You can't look 180.
No.
I mean, in special occasions, you could,
Yeah, if it's
you could try if there's no sales.
yeah, if it's
You
like
could
rural,
go back a little bit.
Yeah, rural property.
Or if there's no
acreage.
sales, you could maybe
Yes.
stretch out 3/4 of a mile. If there's no sales, maybe you could compare a ranch to a bi-level,
Yeah.
and then you start deductions. And it's kind of rough for me because I can't just go on the app and say, all right, this is what's selling in the neighborhood.
Right.
Because I see another acronym. I used to do BPOs. And that's a little bit different than a CMA. A BPO is a broker price opinion. We had to go in there and then really do a mini appraisal on it, and then we had to send it off to the
Yeah,
banks.
that- now
when
you're
I was
looking
doing
at-
REOs, acronyms, alphabet soup all
Yep.
day.
Yep.
Yep. And then the other thing that I want to note on CMAs is we see a lot of conversations now going around home prices, and something that I really just want to drive home when it comes to CMAs is we tend to forget that your property's value is based on the other properties in your area. So you're seeing a lot about, interest rates, and people don't want to get out of them. Home prices are going to go up, go down. As long as we are still sitting in the market that we have where inventory is low and there is still competition for that low inventory, there is still a possibility for home prices to rise, because if your neighbor sells for $500,000 and your home is worth $450,000, but you have the same kind of build, now your home can creep closer to $5. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to sell my home, as everybody does, we're looking for the top value. Everybody wants to get
Right.
the most for their home.
I mean, in real estate, an appraisal is a very structured opinion of what your house is worth at the end of the day.
Yep.
It could be very subjective at times, but at the end of the day, what's your house worth? It's what someone's willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
And that's what drove our prices up, because
Exactly.
a house was on the market for $400,000, but someone needed to get into a home and they liked yours. They're going to give you $500,000. And now what did that do? Skew the appraisal.
Exactly.
Because they got to get 3 comparables, 3 solds in the area, and they're going to go apples to apples and make their adjustments. This one's in better condition. This has a little bit more square footage, more another bathroom, another bedroom, and then they're going to kick out a price. But if someone has cash money, which there was a lot of Californians coming in with a lot of cash money,
Exactly.
and said, I want that house. I had that same house in California, and I paid $1 million. I'll give you 5. I know you want 4, but I'll give you 5 and beat everybody out cash.
Yep.
Now that drove the market up.
Exactly. So I just wanted to make that a point as to why CMAs are so important, especially in a market like we're seeing right now.
Yep. All right, let's do escrow.
Escrow. Oh, Josie, you go for it.
Escrow?
Yeah.
Basically, it's a interest-bearing account that you can put funds into.
Trust account.
Trust account, right? In Colorado, it's a little bit different because we use title companies. There's some areas that will use brokerages that will hold funds, such as earnest money. But in Colorado, we have title companies that we pay to manage the money, right? So they are essentially the facilitators of the escrow account. And within that escrow account, a lot of different things can go into an escrow account.
Yes.
The most common that you'll see realistically is the earnest money itself,
Yes.
right? If I offer on a house in Colorado, on average, 1% of the purchase price will be paid for in earnest money, which will then go towards your down payment, closing costs, et cetera. But the earnest money will be held by the title company in an interest-bearing account If for some reason something weird happens, if you close, they release that earnest money. It goes towards the closing costs, and you're good to go.
Well,
and it's not a workable account. That's why I said
Yes.
it's a trust account.
Yes.
It's not a workable account.
Nope.
It
Yes.
only holds funds, and it is interest bearing.
and it's for a third. It's
I was gonna
because
say,
you want a
third-party
third-party control.
There's some brokerages that do it.
There are, yes.
There,
a lot of
Keller
legal-
was one of them,
lot of
and they have
liability.
their own trust account, but they
Yes.
also have office managers and all that
Exactly.
other
Yes.
stuff. But if you're a homeowner already, you're dealing with escrows with your monthly payment.
Correct. That's
because
the other escrow.
the,
Yes.
the mortgage company or the bank, your mortgage servicer, they're going to hold an escrow account for your insurance, and they're going to hold an escrow account for your taxes. Why? And it's free to you because it's in their best interest for their asset to always be insured.
Correct.
So they're going to send your insurance payment, and they want to be first lien on your property. Hey, I have the money. I'm first lien here. If something happens, it's my property. Guess what happens if you don't pay your taxes? Uncle Sam comes in and says, Mr. Mortgage, I come first. So they want to make sure your taxes are paid, and they want to make sure that the asset's always insured.
Same
And
reason
it
why
goes into an escrow
why
account.
when you buy a new construction home, right? They don't know what the taxes are on it because it's still improved land at that point. They'll most of the time overestimate your taxes. Put that in your escrow account, and that way, because we pay taxes in arrears, so we pay taxes this year for the previous year. When the tax comes due, and let's say your escrow account has $3,200 set aside, and it's been paying monthly, right, for your PIT that we talked about earlier, then all of a sudden the taxes, the actual evaluation comes in and they owe you $1,000, then that escrow account and your lender will cut you a check as a refund for those overpaid taxes.
and
and
I'm always
most
leery
commonly,
to get money back from my mortgage.
the most
company.
I've
common
gotten it
way
back
that
a
you're
couple
going
years,
to
yeah.
hear this as somebody who's going through a real estate transaction is a lot of time you're going to hear your realtor or your lender, whoever it is, say, we are now in escrow.
Correct.
So, and
If you're in California,
yeah.
we're not an escrow state. We're a table state.
We're a table state, yeah.
Well, I'm saying as far as people who, if they're looking to know what's going on and how this is going to be used, most often you will hear we are in escrow, which basically just means that we have reached the point where there is money in that fund, in
Correct.
that account that is no longer in our control.
Is going to be paid out by somebody else.
Yes.
As a third party, unbiased party, that's going to make sure everybody gets what they need.
Exactly.
We've heard it 3 times now, so I'm gonna throw something out there. It's not on my list. Lien.
Lien.
And touching on the whole escrow thing, a lot of the hype and HDTV stuff is based out of California. Escrow is something that's always thrown around. Doesn't apply to Colorado. And also another one that's always thrown around is a mortgage. Not in Colorado. Because we are a table state.
Yep.
Everything's recorded right there and then. And then we're a deed of trust state.
Yes. Yep.
So there's a public trustee. The bank doesn't hold your note.
Correct.
A
assessor's office does.
a public trustee holds your note, and then when the consumer says, or the consumer pays the bank, then the bank says, Mr. Public Trustee, release the deed. They've paid off their loan.
Yep.
So that's a whole
And
nother
so
episode.
we did touch on liens a little bit in a previous episode with Lauren Avery Collins, but virtually, to just go as basic as I can, to have a lien on your home is basically somebody saying, I have given this person money, and if they are not able to perform the payments that I am due, then I get a right to go after them for that property, for that asset. So a lot of the times you hear Oscar said, your mortgage is your first lien on the house. You can have a landscaping lien. You could have an HOA lien.
You can have a second mortgage lien.
Yep. If you
So-
take it out.
Someone comes in, remodels your bathroom, and you're like, you should have took the money up front. I'm not paying you.
Yep.
What's that guy going to do?
Put a lien.
He's going to go down to the county clerk and say, Mr. Homeowner didn't pay me for this work order that I did. I'm going to put a $5,000 lien on the house. That means you don't pay me, the time will come. You
Yep.
go to sell or do anything with your house, you got to pay that guy off.
Yeah,
And
pay
it
the
might
pipe.
acquire interest. Who knows?
Yep.
And that is a good, an important part, right? Because like as we're talking about lending, loan to value, we're talking about DTI, your liens come into play significantly when you're looking to sell the house.
Hell, what if you refinance?
Yep.
Got to pay the liens off.
Right? Hey,
Yep.
I'm never going to sell my house, so I'm not going to pay this guy. Cool. You better be good with that 7.5% interest rate then.
Yep.
Because if you want to refi into a 4.5% in 3 years, guess what's going to happen? You're going to owe them plus interest most likely.
Liens, judgments,
Yep.
that all goes with title.
Yep.
Last one we'll do. I'm not going to do HOA.
Okay.
Only because I think that could literally be its
An
own
entire
episode.
episode. Yeah, we'll go
absolutely.
with that.
It is a
So-
homeowners association. That's what
It
it
is
means.
homeowners
Yeah, we're gonna
association,
leave it at
but
that.
outside of that, that'll be our next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know
HOAs.
what? Next episode, next week, HOA
HOA.
homeowners.
HOAs, the good, the bad, the ugly.
If you guys are
Bum,
watching
bum,
this,
bum.
I want any and all questions and horror stories from your HOA.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the last one then we'll do contingency
Contingency.
as it relates to a real estate contract. Like if I'm offering as a contingent offer.
Yeah. So basically, and again, I'm going to go plain terms, and I'm going to let Oscar take a little bit more in depth. A contingency basically says, hey, I'm going to do this, but only if this happens first. Contingency. Oscar, what does that look like with
I feel like we're like the
Typically,
this is like the Sesame Street.
yeah, well, that's I mean, but that's
Sesame Street
honestly what it should be,
I know, I
right?
agree.
Like, that's how I have to know.
A one,
or
a two,
the
a three.
A three.
you go from no, where, nowhere.
Exactly.
What was that? That was oh man, we'll get into that later. Contingency in real estate, as it relates, the most common terms is I have a house to sell before I could buy yours. That's the plain and simple. So I could write an offer while I'm selling my house, and then the seller the seller to the replacement home is going to look at the contract, and there's contingency that I have to sell my home first in order for this to happen, and you have a date of that to happen. But there's other contingencies, right?
I mean, you even have like a move out contingency.
yeah.
You can throw
So
in
it's
there.
just something has to happen prior to the end goal to happen.
Yep.
So here's I've got two things I want to say. First off, example, I have a listing here in Parker that potentially had a contingency to paint the exterior of the house before we sold, based on the HOA. Okay. We went through and we came to an agreement with the buyers, which was also interesting because we listed this house, and to Oscar's point of, hey, a house is worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it, we got our at-list offer within 2 days because this particular buyer wanted to live in the exact same neighborhood as her daughter in a ranch because she was downsizing and getting a little bit older. Didn't have a ton of other interest on the property. All it took was one, but now that 585 stands as a comp, which I had it competitively analyzed out at about 570, and we went 15 over because one person said, hey, this is what this house is worth to me, and now anybody else that sells that neighborhood, guess what?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about how they went non-contingent, though.
Yeah, well, that's also a different episode. But anyway, the second piece of this, from a contingency standpoint, if you are a seller, okay, and your agent says, hey, we have a contingent offer for you, your first question is going to be, okay, when do they have to sell the house by? Well, they have to sell it by 10 days before they close on this house. And that way, if they don't, you're gone, right? Here's my suggestion for you guys. If you're not working with one of us, to ask your agent, have them counter that with 3 dates, I would say, when the house is going to be listed by, because you got to remember, life lesson, everybody, not everybody's urgency is the same when it comes to anything in life, okay?
Nope.
So if somebody goes, hey, my contingency deadline is, I don't know, we're in September, it's September 5th, right? What does it say? Whatever.
Wednesday
6th.
the 6th.
6th. So let's say we want to close in 30 days. So we put a contingency deadline, say, hey, the house has to be sold by the 25th, okay? They could drag their heels and not get a photographer and not clean the house and not get it staged and all these different things. But
When
if
you
you don't
list
give
that
them
thing-
a specific date to list, that's on your agent, honestly, right?
I usually call and be like, is it listed?
So, well, here's right, but here's the thing.
Where are you?
We're talking about contracts. So
Why are you sending
at
an
the end of
offer?
the day, they send an offer. This is what I would counter with. I would counter with a specific date that they have to have it listed by. Usually, if you're going under contract, I'd say within a week.
Under contract
Right.
date was the other one.
Then I would have a date of when they need to be under contract by, and then a date on when they need to be closed by. And that way, as a seller, it gives you, if something weird happens, or if you get another offer down the line because you're accepting backup offers, it gives you 3 separate outs to then go with maybe a non-contingent offer. If for some reason, you know what, they hit the we're listed by date, but they didn't hit the we're under contract by date, and before that you got another offer that's $10,000 over that, it doesn't hamstring you as a seller to not be able to take that other offer.
Right.
You can
And
sit there and call and say, hey, here's the deal. I'll give you 2 extra days to get
It's
this under
a
contract.
safety net.
Safety
It
net,
gives you,
right?
it allows you to dictate whether you want to get out of the contract or not.
Exactly. But if
That's
your
a
agent's
great
not
safety
doing that,
nets.
and you're taking contingent offers on the sale of your home, you're missing out. Just
Yes.
something that I
Right.
would recommend
and those
everybody.
are standard dates
Yep.
that you should use. Not everybody does them.
Well, and the reason
The
they
smart
don't,
agents do.
Yes.
And builders use them.
and the reason they don't is
But they
because
tie
if
it
you
to
look at
monetary
if you
gains.
look at the dates and the deadlines in an offer, there's only one date and deadline that has to deal with contingencies. That's it. So you have to go into the additional amendments and provisions
Additional provisions.
and spell that out. And if your agent's not doing that, find a different agent. Just saying.
Question his
Or
ability.
bring it up if you are working with somebody else and they're talking about, hey, how do I deal with contingent offers? This is something that we'll arm you guys with. Hey, I'd like to counter if we do get a contingent offer with 3 dates and deadlines so that we have a safety net. And your agent's going to go, holy shit.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Well, yet
Hey,
again,
your agent's going to be like, do you just want to sell this house? Because
Yeah.
you know more than I do.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
And that's yet again phenomenal information, guys. I mean, and we didn't get through all the terms, so we'll probably circle back to it. But shout out, Evan. Thank you for giving us the idea to break it down
Thanks.
a little bit.
Yep.
I think that this honestly will help a
Yeah.
good amount of people because and
It's
this
the
is where
thesaurus edition.
right, yeah,
The
thesaurus
thesaurus
edition.
glossary.
Glossary,
The
right?
glossary.
And
I'm
then
gonna-
again, we just it's with me. Yes, it's passion, but it's more of I've been doing this for so long. It's like I had a good friend
It
of
just
mine
flows.
stop me and say, "Hey, whoa, stop.
Right.
I just had one question. You're going
Yeah.
into real estate mode. Shut up."
Yep.
Yep.
It's just
Yep.
there's a lot.
We all
behind
do it,
everyone.
right?
Mhm.
There's
Oh,
a
we all
lot
do it.
behind
Find yourself at a
everything,
party.
right?
You're 30 minutes into the conversation now.
Yeah, and again, the whole point of this is we know that not everybody watching or listening to this is going to use us 3, right? We'd love if you did.
Please do.
Point at the cameras, every camera. We'd love to. However, we know that people have previous relationships, so we just want to make sure you guys go in as prepared as possible. And these are some of the questions that I think people should ask.
Absolutely. And I think this is for me, I think now moving into the One Rock takeaway, I'll go ahead and kind of start it off, but we say it all the time, knowledge is power. But for my One Rock takeaway for this episode is think about how much you're missing out on by not having this knowledge. Because when I was talking to my friend about it, like you just said, I got into real estate mode. I started talking, and same exact thing happened. He goes, "Man, I don't know. You gotta track back for me." But I know personally, in the last 2 years, I went from knowing absolutely nothing about real estate to taking a class that took me 2 months, and now I'm having conversations on levels with business partners, with other people that I never would have been able to have, specifically because I have this baseline knowledge. So my One Rock takeaway is just be aware of what you don't know and how much that's hurting you in your endeavors.
Yep.
My One Rock takeaway is HOAs. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're shit.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
No, at the end of the day, this whole podcast is based on knowledge, right? But screen your agent, screen your lender. One of my last transactions, I wrote offers for. I mean, I presented myself well. I care about my client more than I care about myself. Because if I really would have cared about my business, which is a horrible business decision, I would have came on top of what just happened to me with this transaction. But instead, I took the higher road and I made sure my buyer was taken care of. I am super knowledgeable when it comes to my clients, and then my business second. Fine. But know what your agent is doing because they're going to save you money and they're going to save you headaches down the road. And if they don't know, if they don't have the, and well, with this other client, I was going to present everything to them and they said, Oscar, we don't care. Where do we sign? We trust you. Pump the brakes. I need to get this out. I need to tell you because 1, I won't sleep tonight. And 2, it's important for you to know. It's important for you. If your agent's just telling you sign and not explaining this to you, that's a big red flag.
Well, and again, and that's what I was going to say is that, playing off of my One Rock takeaway is exactly what you said, Oscar. And this is where, again, watch the wholesaling video because we talked about this. If you go into it as a for sale by owner, if you go into it talking to a real estate agent and you don't know these terms, you don't know what they're talking about, you will get taken advantage of eventually by an agent or by a person that knows more than you do simply because you don't have that information.
I am sorry, but I take my agency seriously. And if you come to me as a customer and you don't want representation, my fiduciary responsibility is to my client.
Exactly.
And I am going to make sure they come more than on top of this whole transaction. They're going to get chewed up. I'm sorry. You took this road. That's fine. Love you. My heart's big, but when it comes to my business, I'm a bulldog. I'm gonna take you to the cleaners. I'm gonna take you to the deep end and drown you. That's just the way it is. Get a good agent.
Yep.
Get a good agent.
Jameson.
They're your life raft.
Yeah, I think the theme seems pretty similar, so I'm going to stay in that same vein. If you guys take anything from this conversation, I hope it's that you can sniff out bullshit quicker when you guys are getting approached by realtors, agents, so on and so forth. Because
Stop them and
I've
ask
said this
them.
forever. The bar to entry to become a realtor is fucking ridiculously low. It just is,
$350.
okay? It is. And I will say that, coming from, I would call myself a fairly intelligent human being. I took a test and studied, right? Paid $600 for the course. Passed it easily. I've used almost nothing from that $600 course that was 168 hours.
Implements.
Yeah, right?
What
How
are
many
implements?
square feet are in a fucking acre?
Implements are
43,650.
crops.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah,
dealing
like-
with land.
Yeah.
I've used them once in
Yes.
22 years.
It's a joke, is what I'm saying. So the experience comes, or the knowledge, right? The knowledge comes from experience, and
Yep.
I truly believe experience and passion, actually,
Yeah.
and curiosity. Those three intertwine. Okay. The point is, we do this podcast because of experience, gaining knowledge, and having curiosity. And as those things intertwine, if I would challenge anybody watching this, that if you were to talk to one of us versus somebody else, there'd be a pretty delineated,
Like I said,
line,
one of my,
you know what I
one
mean?
of my-
Like it would be pretty apparent.
Part of my spiel is hit me with everything.
Correct.
One of my
If I don't
proudest-
know it, it's a cold day in hell, but I'll admit it.
Right. So, and that's the other.
I'll get the answer for you.
That's the other piece of this, right? Because humility comes into it as well. But my rock takeaway is this type of conversation. We're taking the time to break things down for you guys, and then give examples about why it's important, and using specific scenarios within our own experience to help you guys understand. When you go and talk to somebody else, our hope is that is apparent, that there are levels to this shit. And we want you guys to be able to have the conversations. Let's say it's not with any of us, but you go and interview 3 agents on your own that we don't know from Adam. Our hope is that you can use what we give you here to make that decision that much easier, because you're going to go, oh shit, this is way easy. These two are a joke. This one actually cares and is knowledgeable and has the experience, and you go with that person, and it's a great
Put
transaction.
them through the ringer. Hit them with some of the stuff we give you. And if you're out of state, obviously you may or may not be able to use you. I was going to be licensed in Florida and in Texas at one point, but
Yeah, I thought about getting
I'm
licensed in
I'm
Texas.
not, because
Pain.
it's just not a good business plan, right?
Yeah.
But what we can do is vet agents
Yes,
for you.
exactly.
And tie into it to the point where we may or may not be able to look over stuff with your permission and say, you know what, this is good. When it's in another state, it's kind of hard because there's different laws, right?
Yeah, but if it's
But-
written
but if it-
permission
if it-
from a buyer in another
But
state,
we'll look at it and we'll get the basics, right? There's a general test for real estate that's across the board, and then there's state law. There's
Yep.
2 tests. So call us. If you're in another state, we're pretty familiar with all states. We've decent traveled. And we have connections with other realtors, and I have connections in almost every state.
Yep.
Montana, Wyoming.
Nobody's moving there anymore.
No one's moving there. Sorry,
They
guys.
want you to.
I love fishing
They
and
want you
hunting
to.
over there. But call us. We'll vet them for you.
Yep.
If you don't want to do that, we will do that for you.
Yeah.
And we'll refer you to a good agent. I have contacts in Keller Williams. They're international.
Oh, Keller Williams,
Remax,
Remax,
international.
Compass,
Fathom
international.
is
Yep.
international. Compass, EXP, they're all international. And we have friends in other states. We will vet for you and say, you know what, this guy's good. Plus, I'll keep tabs on him.
Yep.
Yeah, we want to be your bullshit radar. That's my
Yes.
rock takeaway for today. Let us be your bullshit radar. And if we give you answers that another agent can't give you the answers to, and we give those to you today, call bullshit.
Good.
That's it.
All bullshit. Absolutely. Well, I think this is a really good time to move into the bourbon review. And I'll tell you what.
I tell you
I
what.
tell you what.
I tell you what.
A lot of the time for me, whenever I see a bottle like Angels Envy, we've done the Woodford Reserves. We've the bottles that you see.
The staple high shelves.
Yeah, the staple high shelves. A lot of the time I
Or
come
top
at
shelves. Why the fuck did I say high shelves?
it. Either way.
This isn't a
They're high, they're
dispensary.
top- they're
It's
top
not,
shelf
it's not a
back there.
dispensary.
Because you guys been drinking.
For me, I always start with a chip on my shoulder, only because it's I don't want you to be a staple. I don't, you're why? But I think that Angels Envy held up through and through from the first sip. I mean, even it wasn't the neck pour, but the first pour from the bottle all the way to the end. Again, room temperature wise, the flavor sits. And I will say that if you take a sip and you let it sit a little bit, I definitely feel like the dryness on my tongue from the wine.
Yeah.
Like I get the flavor 100%. The sweetness sits on the back. This would be a phenomenal cocktail bourbon. Great to drink on its own for me, but for sure, and you guys know I love the sweet. This one,
He eats Reese's cupcakes.
this one has a really good back into it, and I think it's a testament to being able to drink it neat and still be able to get good flavor throughout the whole sip. And I mean, I've only done one pour, so this has been sitting out. It opened up really well, and I love the sweetness from it. I love
You
the
keep
caramel.
on bringing up room temperature. You prefer rocks, I assume.
Or at least a chilled glass.
Yeah. My stuff's always room temperature.
Yeah.
You know, it's if you don't mind. I look at bourbons, and if I've never had it, I look at the journey.
Yeah.
I'm open. It's either gonna suck or be good, or let's enjoy this journey. Give it a chance. Evaluate. That's
Yep.
kind of how I take bourbons
Yeah.
at this point. At first, I was like, it's high end. It better be good.
Yep.
Now it's like, it's high end. It might suck. Let's see what's up.
Yep.
Yep. And now at this point, like I said, I had that 135 that was like a $350 bottle. Tasted it. Nobody could drink it. I was like, this is bourbon aficionados are bullshit. Like, don't get me wrong. We're just three guys that like to drink
It's all
bourbon.
it's all business.
Yeah, it is. It's all marketing.
Yep.
It's all business. And at the end of the day, if you have one that you like, this one you like. But for me, I'm gonna give this one a solid 4, for sure. It's the only reason that
Right.
I wouldn't give it a little bit lower is because it is dominated. Obviously, it's port. It's coming port barrel, but it is dominated by that sweetness. You don't get a lot of the wood, that wood flavor in there.
I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all the same reasons. It's easy to find, so easy to enjoy. It's always a good thing.
What's the
right?
cost on it again?
60.
Okay.
That's not bad.
See, I don't know. That's I think that's a little bit steep for the flavor that we've had compared to the other ones that we've tasted. But I'll stick with the 4. Maybe leaning a little bit more towards 4.5 on that one. But
4.25.
yeah, But I, I'll stick with the 4 because I do.
You
honestly,
pay for some points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I pay for
Yeah,
points on that one.
You paid for points.
I pay for points on
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
I give it a 4. I think it's drinkable. I mean, obviously, on a single cube, it opens up. Room temperature's been great. Sweetness, a little over. It's not. Oh, I wouldn't say it's overpowering, but it is it's
dominating.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you get the burn in the front end, but it settles sweet on the back end, which I like, because it leaves me wanting more or to take another sip. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
4.
like 4.
I'm gonna agree. I give it a 4. I'm a fan of Angels Envy. They make a great rye.
They do make.
I think
it good.
that
I'd
plays
like to try their rye.
that
I'd
plays
like to
a lot into my decision because they make a good product.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had this one. It's to me it's not even the sweet. To me it doesn't go. It needs to fucking decide. It's not port. It's not bourbon, and it's just like this flavor. And when it comes to bourbon, I want either the flavor to be a little bit more well-rounded when it's hitting me, or tastes like bourbon with a hint of something, but bourbon's the main attraction. This one doesn't make a decision, man. Are you a bourbon or are you going to be the flavor? And it kind of just it just doesn't mix, or I don't know. It kind of throws my taste buds off.
Yeah.
And it gives me like a dry mouth.
I can
It's weird.
definitely see why this is a staple in bars, though.
Yeah, but it's good.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not bad. It's just my palate at this point. I want a decision made,
Yeah.
and it doesn't do it. But I highly recommend Angels Envy.
Yeah.
I love Angels Envy. Their products are good. This one I've never had. It's a 4. Their rye, if I had to, from my memory, I'd probably give it a 3 or 2.
Yeah, their rye's good.
Their
We're
rye's
gonna have
really
to- we're
good.
gonna have to
But
try
this
it.
one's
Their
probably
rye's very
this
good.
is a
They didn't
solid
have the
4.
rye when I went over there. That's
This is a solid 4. It's a good bottle.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
4.
We're gonna have to try it out. Well, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us for another episode. Remember, you can catch us on YouTube at Living in
He's
Colorado.
only had one.
Right? Not even at YouTube or YouTube at Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective. And you can get in touch with us at resotr@themilehighperspective.com or give us a phone call.
303-578-0263.
And you can reach all of us on social media. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Mine is That Lifting Agent. Jameson,
The Colorado real estate guy.
Oscar the realtor, and X.
Ooh.
It's no longer Twitter.
X. Oh, you're
It's
right.
X.
X.
Oh, I'm
Oscar
on-
the Realtor across the board.
I'm on Threads.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All 4 million or all 4 million threads.
56 million users
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
Fucking wild.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thanks for
I'm
sticking
in the
with
phone
us.
book.
For
No,
Yellow
that's
Pages.
not a thing anymore.
I can't believe we made it to a year. This has been an
Awesome,
awesome
guys.
Wow,
experience.
man.
It's been
Learned
awesome.
so
Wow.
much. Cheers.
Cheers.
JC, thank you for bringing us together.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Cheers, you guys.
Have a great week, everyone.
Mm-hmm.